Welcome to the Taste of Sensuality, lady, beautiful lady. I wanted to just really give a big thank you and appreciation and love to my wonderful guest today. She has been in my life for quite some time now, even though we don't see each other all the time because she lives in Oregon. I live in LA, and we don't see each other, but we met in LA. And she came into my life when I first learned about orgasmic meditation. And we were at a play day that they had after the training. And she was just a light. I think honestly, one of the people in the world that I could say she could be my sister. Like, we're so connected. But she's like, I can't wait to share her with you, because her level of intuition and her abilities to support people in their intuition and utilize her and her amazing clairvoyance is beyond anything that I think that we're ever told that it's okay to have. So let me welcome Deb Petrille to the show today. Thank you for being here on the Taste of Sensuality.
Thank you, Darlene. This is exciting. Thank you for having me and taking the time to set this all up. And yeah, let's go.
Let's play. And we have played a lot. We've had a lot of really good times together. So Deb, I just wanted to start off by, if you could give us a little background about yourself in terms of clairvoyancy, on seeing past the physical and into a life full of love and joy and reaching those desires that we all want to come into our life.
Wow, that is a big question. And I knew that I was able to see intuitively, which is clairvoyance, when I was a preteen. And my parents thought that it was really fun. And so we played games with it until they started to kind of tease me. My family started to kind of tease me, and some other things happened, and I shut it down. But I was always intuitive. And things like walking past a restaurant and just kind of like looking in there and just knowing that, no, this is not a place I want to eat. Or this is a great place to eat, and winning football pools and things like that. I just thought it was normal. I thought it was just normal. And then I was a very busy businesswoman, crazy busy. I was in finance. I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I got to as high as I wanted to go, literally on the top of the Bank of America building at a event where I was the only woman there, and there were all men, and I felt like a piece of meat. Not like someone who had an education, not like someone who had worked very hard to get to that place, breaking barriers, being a woman, and just still feeling like a piece of meat. And it was like, there's just something not right here. Well, lo and behold, about 6 months later, things started to shift and change. And I decided to find out about this food product that was a natural food product. And that's when I met my clairvoyant teacher. And I was just going to take meditation classes so that I could relax because it was like I had like 9 irons in the fire. And in that first meditation class, I came out of it with, wow, this works. And so I kept going back. And what I didn't realize was that what I was in was a clairvoyant training program. And I did that for 15 years. And so this ability that I had as a child got stronger and stronger. And I've done many, many other types of programs that have strengthened the ability. And it serves me very, very well.
That's a beautiful story. And so what have you done, what kinds of things have you done in your experience with your clairvoyance, and how has it served you and others in the world?
Well, I started out just as a student for many years, developing the ability to see and what that meant, and so many classes. And then I was in a teacher's program, so I could teach how tools to develop clairvoyance. And then I started doing another type of work that added on to this ability, which then I started to notice that not only was I clairvoyant, I was clairsentient, which is the ability to feel, or empathic sensitivity, the ability to be an empath. And oh boy, was that fun. So now I can close my eyes, I can see something, and I can feel it at the same time. And then what this does for me as far as a practitioner in this work is that, so someone will come to me and they will ask me questions, and I will see pictures, but I will also feel emotions from them. And this is a really great way to go in deeper to whatever their questions are.
So do you find that, what's your opinion of like all women? Do you think all women have the ability for intuition? And if we put, I know clairvoyance is one and clairsentient is another. There are different forms of that intuition. Do you think all women have intuition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All women have intuition. And it's, and it's just, do they want to develop it? Do they want to strengthen it? Do they want to not be afraid of it? So.
Yeah. So that's interesting that I felt a lot of sensation around that, like the fear, because that felt, in my experience, just with my own intuition, I find that it is scary to know something before it happens. It can be, right? Until you get comfortable with it. So I find that that's what happened for me. Like I was really scared, or I would hear like really great guidance as a child. And it almost felt like I wanted to rebel against it. I don't know if you experienced that, or I didn't want to know that. And so I did drugs and drank, and that just totally shut me down. And allowed me to kind of like be the rebel or experience contrast as different. And then, like you said, once I let it flow, and then I feel like, why did I ever shut it down? But I think you're right. It's around this acceptance. Is the world going to accept it? I think that oftentimes, don't you think we get scared? Because it's not something like you talk about money and finance, right? It's not like there's not a clear, 1 + 1 = 2 path. It's just an open universe, and you're in that, and there's no, just like no format or no like unexplainable things. Would you think that that has something to do with the fear, or like you can't quantify it?
I would say that the fear is mostly around acceptance. The fear that you see something and you say what it is that you see, that the person you're saying it to says, oh, no, that's not true. And that could be just as, okay, you're wrong, to I'm going to punish you somehow for this knowledge that you have. And hey, maybe it is true. And then they're like, no, this is not true. And so then the intuitive ability you start to question it. And do I really have this? Is this right? Does it work? Can I use it? How can I use it? There's a lot that happens when you first start to develop it. Another thing is sometimes it will come on fast, and it's like, oh, I heard my boyfriend talking about somebody else clear across town, just in my ear. and that can be really scary. So there are lots of things. It's really wonderful to develop intuitive gifts with a group of people who are also doing the same thing, because they're having the same experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many questions for you. I think for me, and I'm going to go back to this trust thing that I always talk about with trusting ourselves, you know, and I think that is the most powerful part that we could ever be in, is trusting ourselves. And I know that when my former husband was having an affair, and I felt it, like I knew it, I saw the vision, I could feel it happening. And when he denied it and told me I was, you know, crazy for thinking that, I think that when it was confirmed that he was, you know, having an affair, I was mad at myself more than him, because I doubted me and I knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was harder to get over than what he had done.
Yeah.
It's like that self-betrayal, right? I know I have this experience. I know I have this feeling, but I'm letting someone else tell me it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you really work with your intuition, and like on a daily basis, you get to a point where, okay, I know that's true, and it doesn't matter if it's confirmed to me or not. I just know it's true. And maybe sometimes I'm wrong, you know, and that's okay too. So you start to let go of the attachment of having to know if you're right, and just be with the experience of, oh, this is cool. Okay, I'm kind of ahead of everybody on this. This is awesome. You know, and I'm going to use this so that it makes my life better.
Oh, that's really great. Not attached to the outcome.
Not attached to the outcome. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and you and I learned through one taste, you know, especially, and I'm sure you learn it through being a clairvoyant and through being intuitive, is surrender.
Yes. Surrender. It's the best practice ever.
You know, I don't think that just recently, you know, you know, it's like you get it, and then all of a sudden you just really get it.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
Yep.
And then you see how surrender as a woman, our most powerful feminine place, is so much more in the flow to create from, whether it's business, you know, climbing the ladder, as we might say, creating business, creating babies. I mean, that doesn't, you know, when you surrender, I know a lot of people who wanted it, right? And then they let go, and then it just came, right?
Yeah.
So that place of surrender, whoa, to me, has so much to do with intuition. Would you say that as well?
Surrender and intuition. Yes, because when you're not attached, so that is surrender. And when you're quiet and still, and you're in a place of waiting, and it's not waiting as in an anxiety type of waiting. It's just a place of stillness. And so that quiet stillness and surrender allows you to just kind of sit in the process of, okay, it's going to come to me. It is going to come to me. And then the other thing that I've learned also with being an intuitive is that I will get like hits there. I call them hits or signs. And those hits and signs they're like guideposts, and they'll tell me, okay, go this direction, or start looking at that direction. Or I'll start getting these signs that are telling me, don't go that way, and don't put your eggs in that basket. And, you know, and what's been happening over the last several years is that I am at a place where I see things coming before they actually happen. And this is mostly for me personally. As a practitioner, it's different. I'm looking at in the moment, but for me personally, I'm able to basically create my world and then see if that's going to happen.
That's really good. Yeah. That's where I felt, you know, just to you know, like what you're speaking about, what I'm relating that to is when I was, you know, it's like when you get to a certain age, you start to see like you have a lot of talents or you have a lot of gifts. Yes. And then what can you do? And I've always been drawn to support others, especially women. I mean, just something about being a woman that I resisted. And then once I let it in, and the more I let it in, right, just I felt like being a woman wasn't an honorable thing. It wasn't a good thing. I mean, and that was just my interpretation from what my dad would say. Mm-hmm. But then as I've leaned into it, and especially around that piece of sensuality and sexuality, and I had this inner knowing when I was a kid, like there was nothing bad with it. Like there seemed to be such a stigma around sensuality and sexuality. Like, no, you shouldn't do it. And it's shameful, or it's this, or it's that. And when I was speaking with, you know, one of my coaches, she said to me, I had spoken to her about a client who was 61 and having the best sex of her life after she started seeing me. And it was just my ability to listen to her and how she let go and surrendered and went into that place of her femininity. And she had been a powerful businesswoman, right? And just really had led her life from that masculine energy. And all of a sudden she was surrendering and feeling more sensation.
Yes.
And just when I realized that I'm like, oh, I don't have any shame around sex. I don't have any shame around sex. Even though my intuition was saying that's the path, that love, the combination of love, play, sensuality, you know, those little pieces of that brighten us up as women, that was where my path was. And I resisted it for so long just because I had this ideal, right? And so I can see how what you're speaking to is like this ability to, you know, surrender, let go, and receive. And like you said, see your future, you know, like see the path. Like it's to say I've never liked, I don't know, because I don't believe that's true. I believe we do know if, like you said, if we're silent enough, if we surrender. And then in that space of silent surrender, we receive the knowing, I call it, the inner knowing, the ability to really see at least the first step yes. in that direction, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's definitely why I know that we're connected, because we met in a place that we were both, you know, we're both mothers. We're both sensual, turned on women. And, and we both love to enjoy living our life from that place of that inner knowing.
Yes.
Even though we can get lost, like we can want something. I think what's always thrown me off my path is when I get, I'm not taking care of myself, or I get lonely because I'm not seeing my connection. So I view that I'm lonely, or I'm, you know, I'm just not in the connection that I really want to be in. And then that messes me up. Right? And then I start doing things that I know is not feeling right. Like you said, going into that restaurant when I knew that experience wasn't going to be good. Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say has been so you talked about your breakthroughs in your life, and I'm sure that you're, as all of us, we're constantly having them. But I read something on your website about you being like sick and just in a different, kind of way of being as opposed to you are now. What do you think was a breakthrough moment for you?
My breakthrough moment. So I had digestive issues for 10 years and went to all doctors and specialists, and they really weren't able to help me. I got it down to it was livable, but I was never well. And then I ended up getting a pinched nerve in my shoulder, my right shoulder. And I went to my doctor, and he gave me muscle relaxers, and I took the muscle relaxers, and it went away. But as soon as the muscle relaxers were gone, the pain came back, and it was worse. And so I went to the doctor and I said, this didn't work. What else have you got? And he gave me another prescription. And I heard in my head, and so this is like my ability. I heard in my head a voice, and the voice was the voice of my mother-in-law. And it was, oh, honey, it takes the edge off. And what she was talking about was Vicodin. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going down this path. I'm 32 years old, and I'm not going down this path. And so I just lived with the pain in my shoulder, and ended up via a friend, saw my first chiropractor, and that chiropractor did more for me in a week than any doctor had done up until that point. And what ended up happening was the work that he did led me to this superfood that helped me with my digestion, that led me to my teacher, that helped me with my stress, that had it be that I started to work on my spiritual gifts, and to find out, wow, I'm really gifted, and then to develop them.
Wow. Do you think, like, I've always had this in the back of my head, do you think that the more sensitive intuitively, the more sensitive spiritually we are becoming, the more sensitive we are to maybe diet and, environment? And that's just a question that's always come up for me. What is your thoughts?
It's actually, it's where I'm headed now into a much deeper study, and we call it empathic sensitivity. And it is this ability to feel other people, feel other people's pain, feel other people's joy, feel other people's whatever, feel even just the mass consciousness. And so say you're in a grocery store and somebody walks by you and their stomach hurts, and all of a sudden your stomach starts hurting, and it's like, oh, what did I eat? It might not have been what you ate. It might have been what you ate. It might just be this sense of, wow, I'm feeling that other person. And so all of those things, you like take everything, you take the environment, you take sounds, you take electronics, you take food, you take practices, and it's just all of those things can cause sensations, can cause dis-ease, can cause not being able to sleep. It's like it's really interesting to me right now is to discern the difference between what is something that I'm putting into my body that's causing me discomfort versus what is something that I'm feeling outside of my body that's causing me discomfort.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see that that would be true, and going back to that match about our emotional beingness, I think that by attaching to our emotions and then attracting emotions from others that are similar, right? We're no stuff we haven't resolved or
Oh yeah. So that's like someone is a mirror, and
yeah.
you're meeting them, you're interacting with them, and you see yourself in them. And it's like that gives you the opportunity, one, maybe you've got some of your energy in them and you're calling it back. And also, oh, wow, those behaviors, maybe I don't like those behaviors anymore, and maybe I'm going to change them now, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's nothing like looking at your child. I mean, this is my experience, and seeing stuff that you do and they're doing. And then you're just like, yeah, I might want to take a look at that in myself. Yeah. So how do you think that, so now that you've been trained to help others um, enlighten their intuitive abilities, their clairvoyance or clairsentience or claircognizance, and what is the other one?
their audience.
Audience. There you go. Uh, Thank you for that reminder. There's four.
There's more. Those are the top ones.
I'm sure there's more. We're just going by, by the four that are the main ones, right?
Yeah.
So what did you learn that, like, what's something that, our listeners could begin to practice in their life that would support them to, one, listen to their intuition more, surrender more, and experience more, joy, pleasure, have a better experience of life?
So there were two thoughts that came to me. The first one was meditation, and but a lot of people have difficulty with meditation because they think they're doing it wrong, and so meditation can work for some people. And then they don't judge themselves, and so then they can really start to tap into that other voice, that voice that's not the rabbit on the wheel. But the other thing that is really great to develop intuition are tarot cards. And the way that I learned how to read tarot was I was given a deck, and the person who gave me the deck said, "Don't read the book." And I'm like, what? I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is. I've never seen these. What? It's like, what? And she said, "Don't read the book." And I'm like, okay. And so because I was training as a clairvoyant, I kind of got what she meant by don't read the book. And so what I started to do was I would just create spreads that made sense to me, and then would read the cards themselves. And the deck that I have is very, very visual, lots of pictures, and use that to be able to answer questions, and to also do those short little readings for other people too. And that was a way that you can start with finding out if you want to develop this ability that you have to hear outside of yourself, to see outside of yourself, to feel outside of yourself.
It sounds like it's almost like, I love play, and I think it's like a game, right? You can just play the game of intuition, right?
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. And you can meditate, which I've found, even just meditating on coming up with an experience, right? A beautiful experience. I have like a meditation that I do that I definitely want to share with people, but that experience of going back to being a child, an experience, I always say, like an experience when you were a child that you felt expanded, because some of us, weren't, had contracted childhoods, but when you felt expanded, you felt safe. Where was the scenery? And just by going into that scenery, or I call it going up the staircase and then into the scenery, you can just see what's around, just noticing, right? So I think it occupies your brain enough to let you be outside of the world and inside of yourself, to hear right? To maybe hear or experience or feel or whatever your, whatever your strongest sense is. And then also, what I heard you say is like play the game of like the tarot cards. Like, what does this card like? I remember, I think you did this in one taste too. We just read palms, and we just look at someone's palm and then we would just read whatever we saw.
Totally.
So just something like fun and playful. Would you also say that, like, just being comfortable, like how would you be comfortable with messages or things that you're receiving as you're going through that?
Another way to get messages is to do stream of consciousness writing. So you just sit down with your favorite pen and a book of paper, and a big binder of paper or a journal, and you just start writing. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're thinking. It's just like whatever it is, just anything that comes to you, just write and write and write and write and write. And what happens is, if you have like a thought will come in, or an idea will come in, and as soon as you're going through, it's like, oh, that's different. Well, that's a message from outside of your brain. And so, another piece is coming through. Another way to do it, which is also fun, is to do stream of consciousness writing with your non-dominant hand. And then the other thing, and then if you want to do that, the next thing you can do is you can do stream of consciousness writing going back and forth between hands. It's like, okay, my higher self is talking to me. So it's like, okay, I'm at the level of my higher self, something that is bigger than I am, has infinite wisdom, and is not the brain. And the brain is over here, and the brain is asking the question, and the other hand, the non-dominant hand is answering. So the dominant hand is asking the question, the non-dominant hand is answering the question. That is also a way to tap into your intuitive ability.
Wow. So where do you think the biggest, the most discovery, or the most openness, what has caused you to feel the most open utilizing your gifts as an intuitive?
Relationships.
Yes.
Yes.
Now we're into one of our favorite subjects.
Yes, relationships, and especially my ability to read faces, and to read expression, and to be able to see emotions in a face, and also to be like on a date and get that red flag, it's like, oh yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. and just like, okay, all right, let's finish this one up. And other things, it really, really, really has served me in a relationship.
Yeah. So what's exciting in a relationship in your life?
Oh, I have a great relationship right now. I call him my paramour, and it is an open relationship, and he has other partners, and oh man, it's the best, because I have my time with him, and we have a incredibly strong connection, and the sex is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And it's really great to work on the practice of non-attachment, because I'm sharing him. So
yeah. And how is that for you?
it works perfectly. And, I think it's because of years of experience in relationships and in dating, and also in a place where I am right now in my life where I really want to grow my business. And, so that's my passion. That's my baby. And he's very supportive of all that I am. And, it just works. It just totally works.
So what I hear you saying is you have a lot of time to grow your business and take care of you.
Yeah.
And still have this passionate, loving relationship.
Yeah. And friendships too. So I've got my business, I work, and I have a regular day job right now, and I have friendships that are very strong, and yeah.
That's awesome. And how do you think that, when you're talking about that relationship, and I would say just even, I don't think it's limited to just loving relationships with men. I would say that intuition also can transform your life in the kinds of relationships you attract as women, the kind of friendships. Like I would say, when I met you, I'd say my intuition was like, she's my person. I'm gonna be friends with her.
I call that resonance. And it's like there's a vibration, like you're so joyful, you're so happy, you look at life with this, like, it's all good. And and the challenges are great, because challenges make us stronger. And challenges have it be that we'll find the thing that it is that we really want to be, and then we won't have that challenge anymore. And it's just it's all of this, like, moving forward and being joyful, and just it's like not dwelling on the negative, and not making excuses and things like that. So it's like, the ability to feel, and the ability to see, and the ability to hear, kind of under the surface, it's like those other conversations of, oh, I wish I was someplace else, or I really should be doing this, and yeah, maybe they're not very fun, or maybe or this is, and my big thing that I'm still working on but have become very aware of is, I'm not going to fix you. And and it's like, because that's what I just, like, in the past would just keep putting myself out there. I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to fix the situation, I'm going to make it better, all of these types of things. And that was part of that pulling back, was really how I got into the practice of stillness and surrender, and and being very quiet inside myself.
So what I hear you saying is your practice of non-attachment in relationship, and not, I think so many of us women can fall into that pattern of fix him, like, let me fix him, or let me fix her, let me fix this, gives us purpose, gives us meaning. I also want to honor that we like transformation, so it's that easy balance of supporting others by who you are, right? Truly. Yeah. And then not being attached to what they choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
And so how would you say that you've been able to take your clairvoyance and your intuitive abilities and put it into your business, or even in your business, your day job?
Oh, okay. So in my day job, I'm gonna go back to the stillness and the surrender and the quietness is having the intuitive ability and empathic ability to kind of, like, see under the radar, like, be under the radar, one, and also to see under the radar, and to just really be very present and very aware of all of the little nuanced things that are happening around me, and to kind of be ahead of like big announcements or big changes that are about to happen. These are things, this ability is actually really honed. And so what it does is it helps me not get nervous, not get anxious, and to be able to just stay in a state of flow with whatever's happening. And yeah, I still have my anxious times and I still have my nervous times, but I find that this ability to it's like see under the radar, it really helps.
Yeah, I can see that with you, because my experience of you, even in, as busy professional businesswoman that you are, is your ability to, what I'm seeing now is care for yourself. Mm-hmm. And not to, so often I think as women, we can get very stressed out, anxious, especially when we're on a lot of that masculine energy in business, versus just bringing our gifts and being feminine.
Yeah.
And so, do you have to remind yourself of that? Do you, is that a practice for you to stay feminine?
I know.
It's just a natural thing.
It's a natural thing. Yeah. When I stopped being worried what people thought about me.
That's huge.
Yeah. And, and I, have crystals on my desk at work, and, and really feel into the relationships, and, how much can I share about, my, my eccentricities and, and things like that. And how much do I stay in the straight and narrow? It's like all of those things, they allow me to be me, and they allow me to be creative, because the feminine is creative and it's a creative energy, and also to be happy and to be joyful and to, and to laugh. And in fact, I would say in the last couple of years, I've really found my amusement and my sense of humor, and these things will really get you through the tough times.
I love that. Your sense of humor will get you through the tough times. Yeah. I think going back to that non-attachment, because I feel like there's a theme here through what we're talking about, and it's really that deep non-attachment to outcomes. And I know that's for me. I still work in the medical profession as well, building a company, a startup too. And, it's a daily basis, because, we do a lot of patient service. So patients call us, and if they don't like what we're saying or how we sound, or, whatever it is, right? It's not getting attached to like thinking from a place of like, we're doing it wrong. Like you say, the fixing it, right? Mm-hmm. To we're doing the best we can. Mm-hmm. And it's not always going to be for everyone else, mm-hmm. And I think that what came up for me in this moment, with you was, do you mind sharing your age? Because you would not believe this woman. She does not. She's like an angel looking. This is what laughter and pleasure do to you.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
I'll be 58 in July.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think you look younger now than I've ever seen you before. And like we've been friends for like 5 years.
Uh-huh.
So, I think you just get younger. And I do have this belief that you can grow younger.
Oh, I do too. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what I think that you're a great example in this podcast, on this level, is your ability to take the joy and run with it. Like, just practice that joy. Like, and I think this happens as you become a mature woman, is that ability to, like what you said, stop caring about what other people think except for you. Like,
Yeah.
once you know who you are, once you're comfortable in your skin, and so many women could not be in open relationships.
It's, yeah.
It's a practice. It's like that.
It is very much a practice.
Yeah.
And it is a practice in non-attachment, and it's also a practice in connection, really, really deep connection. And yeah, it's wonderful, really wonderful.
And intimacy and communication. Like, I mean, you have to be able to trust the person that you're in that relationship with.
Yeah, and the thing that's really wonderful about him is that he's been doing open relationship for a really long time, and he moves very, very slow. So it worked out perfectly when I met him, because I came out of I mean, I consciously was celibate for 2.5 years. And I did that because I wanted something more than just casual sex. And so I didn't know what that thing was. And it took that long period of time for me to really go deep inside myself and find myself. And that was, getting stiller and surrendering and not being attached and all of these things. I was also really dealing with severe headaches at the time too. But when that started to lift, and it was like, okay, I'm starting to come back out again, and starting to like flirt and be flirted with, and it's just like it just blossomed. And then I met him, and it's like everything was slow, very, very slow. And in that slowness, we created a lovely connection, almost like think of it like a thread. It was like we were making a tapestry, and one of the threads was connection, and one of the threads is sensuality, and one of the threads is sexuality, and one of the threads is subdom, and one of the threads is great food, and one of the threads is music. And it's just all of these, so it's like this tapestry has been created very, very slowly over the time. And yeah, so I would say, if you're going to do open, do it slow.
That's powerful. And I love that you're bringing up something that isn't for, may not be for everyone, but it's the possibility for anyone that wants it.
Yeah.
And I think that as women, especially as we get into our mature years, we have a lot of wisdom and a lot of things that we just been taking care of people. And now we're just like, oh, I just may want to just do my own thing, So it's another option to have connection and love and I think even commitment on a certain level, because you have that, I admire people that can do it. I'm not sure that flavor is for me. At least, I've experimented in the past. And it really does take a lot of, like you said, surrender, patience, understanding, communication, which I think are just like the amazing parts of a relationship anyways. And like I heard you say, just there's this slowness. And I heard this, and I've mentioned this a lot of times, but I heard this amazing coach who said, if you want to speed up in your life, slow down.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's so powerful to see that that is, when it's really manifesting for someone like you, who's so youthful and beautiful, and an inspiration to me for women, like after they go through menopause, that they can still have amazing sex and the best sex, and still have sensation.
Yeah.
On such a high level versus what we think everything's just going to shut down, shrivel up, and we're just going to die.
Nope.
I heard Tony Robbins talk to this couple that was like in their 80s, and they were just like giddy and loving. And he's like, oh, how long have you been together? We've been together 50 years and we're still like, we can't get enough of each other.
That's
so
wonderful.
I think that's a good place for us to really be clear as women that we can still have so much pleasure. And
Absolutely.
From that place of stillness, from that place of slowing down, from that place of connection and honoring. Like you said, you went without sex for a while, and maybe you had to fill yourself up in other ways in order to come back to that place, or even a better place.
I came back to a better place. And what I learned about myself, well, really what I did is the gifts that I had been developing, the intuitive gifts that I'd been developing over the years, I went much, much deeper into them, and got to a place where I stopped judging myself for being a psychic. And when I stopped doing that, I was able to really see how gifted I was. And that's really where I focused. I focused on my gifts and my values and that empathic separation, knowing what are my sensations and what are somebody else's, and doing the work to send that energy back to them, and that sort of thing. And the other things that I learned how to do too was I learned how to manifest in other realms, so have that happen here in the physical realm. So those things were happening while I was consciously had chosen to be celibate. And I didn't do this part on purpose, but it happened perfectly. It was also during the 2 years of not having a period. So like that first 2 years. And I would highly recommend to anybody who is, their period has just stopped, or they know that it has stopped, and that they find this like cave-like place to go deep into themselves and find their gifts, their wisdom, their values, and develop them during that time.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I felt that way, in the wake of like not having that resistance, like this. I've gone from never wearing dresses, never wanting to be a woman, that whole thing, to the embracing of it. And when I started to go through like early menopause, like I keep, on this little roller coaster of early menopause, I noticed that I was really afraid to, because my mom is gone, and I didn't know, to ask her and like to say, Mom, am I going to still be okay with this and that? But then to seek out women like yourself, like my client, and just notice that, oh, that doesn't have to end, because sex is such an important part of my life personally. I love, and another thing I've learned, over the course, is not to attach my sexuality or my pleasure to a person. And just to know that that is a part of who I am. Like, I am pleasure. And then being able to honor myself, because that's what I hear from you. Like, honoring the self is something we just don't spend enough time as when we're young. And I do see a lot of younger generation, a lot of women who don't want to be women, who think that they have to compete. They have to, in order to be equal, they have to be a man, or like a man,
Mm.
versus the shift in awareness to let's not compete. And we could still get, I believe, that we can still get everything we want and more if we just lean into who we really are, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like your intuitive abilities, my sexual, explosiveness, my lover. I always resisted falling in love because I thought it came with attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I did, I was like, oh, this feels so rich and delicious. And I just have so much love and appreciation for this person. And I'm still good at doing my own thing. If he walked away, now, I would still I might be sad. I don't think sadness is a bad thing. And I think that's another thing not to resist, is that, we can be optimistic, but allow the roller coaster. Like, I like to cry.
Yeah. And grief is a process.
Yeah.
It's a natural process. And in our society, we don't give grief the place that it needs to really honor what it is that you're grieving, and then to let that go, and then to bring something else in. But it's a process. It is not something that happens overnight.
Yeah. That's definitely surrender into grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just part of the roller coaster of life. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, you're going to have, just sensations that aren't, I spoke about this today in my podcast, was like, you have different sensations. And what I've learned, what I learned I just went to during my exploration, when I was learning orgasmic meditation, I also went to some type of chamber where they did, BDSM.
Uh-huh.
And this guy, I was just curious on a scientific level. I was just very curious. I didn't really feel like it was for me, but I was very curious. And when this guy told me, he's like, pleasure and pain come from the same spots.
Mm-hmm.
That, to not have to be so attached to just everything has to feel good. Everything has to be joyful. As joyful as I am, I think I'm as joyful now because I stopped resisting the downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you see? I know we're getting up here in the time. We could probably go on for days. What do you see in the development on the horizon around clairvoyance and intuition? What do you see personally?
For me,
and for the world.
For the world. Oh my gosh. So what I see for the world is that the world itself, Mother Earth, her vibration is getting higher and higher. And when I say her vibration is getting higher and higher, what that means to me is that things are getting less and less dense. And what's happening is the energetic grids that we used to communicate with, we used to live with, we used to work with, they're breaking down. And most of that has to do with the control that the controlled masculine, which is what I would call the patriarchy. And that's breaking down. And so as that's breaking down, what's happening is the evolved feminine is coming and becoming more aware of her gifts. And her gifts are very intuitive. Her gifts are empathic. Her gifts are creation. Her gifts are all of these wonderful things. But her gifts are also flow, the state of flow. And so the evolved masculine, the way that I see it, and this is, this new level of grid that's coming onto the planet now, is that this evolved masculine is strong, and it's accepting, and it's grounded, and it just wants her to create. And the way she creates is she uses her gifts. She uses her values. She gets into the state of flow. And I see that happening more and more and more. I see that that more and more people are starting to become aware of these differences, and that, oh, I have a little bit more control here than I thought I did. And not in a bad way, but in a good way, in a non-attached way. And that's really an oxymoron. It's like you can actually have control and not be attached at the same time. And so these gifts, these abilities, people doing, like you doing podcasts, it's like meditations, and there's just so much information out there. And and I just see that we're going to be able to communicate with each other in a more loving way, in a more accepting way, in a,
Yeah. Oh. So, in wrapping up here, I love what you just said, because I want to acknowledge it. What I heard you say was, and this is my vision of how I see men, but I feel like Tom asks me all the time, are you happy? And I think that as much as, we don't want to be attached to another person's happiness, men can't help, but that's truly what I feel and what I sensed, through orgasmic meditation, was this ability for men to actually open their hearts without being basically violated by women, just like the things that I love it. We have an agreement that Tom opens the door for me. That's been a thing that women have like, don't open my door, don't pay for my check, don't do this, don't do that. And I think there's a shift in that. Like, it always has to get kind of like almost like people have to fight for it. And then when they just realize that's not how you get what you want.
And you use the word agreement.
Yeah.
And so there's this grid that I'm talking about. This new grid is a co-creative grid. And so we're going to be making more agreements that are really true agreements. They're not passive aggressive. They are, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great. These are the points. And yeah, this is going to work for both of us. And that's how I believe the state of flow works, is that when you have those agreements with somebody and you're in this co-creative place, then flow happens.
Oh my gosh. So true. In fact, our statement is, because Tom and I are both tend to be people pleasers, right? Mm-hmm. And so I created this statement for both of us. I heard it and then I brought it into our relationship, right? And it was, if I could have it all my way. Because I love what you're talking about there, and I think this is one of the most powerful pieces that we've spoken about. But the ability for us to really, if we think from a place, like you said, of not what other people are looking for, because I think you bypass your own intuition. Like you don't really create from that truth of yourself. When you say, if I could have it all my way, and when you write that down, number one, I think you become unlimited. You enter the state of flow because now there's no more resistance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we've been taught that you can't always have it your way. I've been hearing that, when as a kid, and I'm sure you did, you can't always have it your way, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that this universe is more infinite than we have even tapped the surface on. Right? And when Tom and I both say, if I could have it on my way, we create agreements based on expansion and unlimitedness, and not on lack or acquiescence.
Right.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying, because I think that is one of the most powerful. That's how I see it. It's not going to be against, we had to kind of play that game, right? against women. I'm going to objectify women. And over here, I'm going to emasculate men. But I think this is an area of this new expansion of co-creation, of love, of care, and of kindness.
Yes. Oh, kindness. It's the
Not
best.
nice, kind.
No.
It is kind to take care of yourself, right?
That's right.
Okay, do you have any final thoughts, and where can we find you? So if we wanted to have a beautiful session with you.
Oh, thank you. I've loved this so much. It's so exciting. It's so exciting to share. I love sharing. And yeah, my final thoughts are keep doing what you're doing and have people sharing. It's great.
Yeah. And where can we find you at?
My website is Deb, D-E-B, Petrille, P as in Paul, ETRILLE.com.
Yes, and I will put that link in the show notes, and you can book a 15-minute free session with Deb. She's giving you gifts because she loves to share, and she has amazing gifts. And she said this about me, so I know it mirrors who she is. But she said, women, what I love about Darlene is she gives you all of her attention, and you feel like you're the only one in the world. And I'm going to say, back at you, baby, because Deb is a person that will truly, I mean, one of the best listeners in the world. And I think to be heard and seen in the way that she will hear and see you will support you to really open up your own gifts, your own confidence, and your own joy in who you really are, and celebrate that. So thank you so much for being here again. And I can't wait to do this again with you.
Oh my God, let's do it again.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And remember to subscribe, download, and, love us up. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.